today from Money 2020 here in Amsterdam. I'm joined by Dhruv Rishi, who is Head of Marketing and Partnerships for e-commerce at Nexi. Dhruv, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks.
As we start, could you tell us a little about you and Nexi?
Sure. So Nexi is a leading pay tech in Europe, offering a variety of solutions. I personally work in the e-com business unit, and I run marketing and partnerships for the Italian region.
Thank you. In terms of e-commerce, our topic for today is optimized checkout. What does that mean? Why is it important?
So when it comes to an e-commerce merchant, the most important part for that merchant is to get the money from the customer. The whole part of getting money from the customer is dependent on how the experience at the last mile of the purchase journey is handled. So today, big retailers or big merchants like Amazon's and other companies, they have teams dedicated to optimizing checkouts. What happens for the small, medium enterprises? They don't have the resources like a big Amazon does. So they rely a lot on the checkout experience designed by the PSP. And this is exactly where Nexi puts in a lot of investment to create more value for our merchants and increase the conversion, offering different solutions at this last point of the customer journey.
So let's make it clear, in this matter, you're dealing with merchants who are often small and medium-sized enterprises who want to optimize the checkout process.
That's correct. So the merchant basically wants to make as much money as possible and increase the buying customers on their store. What Nexi does is it introduces certain services which help increase this conversion, which could be via a fast checkout solution, which we've created with our collaboration with Visa and MasterCard called Click to Pay. What happens with this solution is we basically allow the cardholder to save their information once when they are buying for the first time. And at the second time, for any other merchant who works with Nexi, they will find their details already saved. And instead of filling up big forms to put in details for the shipping, they just have to do 2 clicks and they can check out with their product or service.
In other words, you make it easier for the end customer.
Absolutely, removing friction completely for the cardholder, thus increasing the conversion for our merchants.
As an outsider, I'm guessing that a key statistic is what you call the conversion rate. Am I right in thinking that that is the number of checkouts relative to the number of consumers who are on the website immediately before checkout? Or is the ratio something different?
So the ratio is basically number of successful payments
Yes.
on all tries which a cardholder might have done. So basically, 100 people show up at this last point of the payment experience, 40 actually pay and buy your product. So that's the conversion rate which we are targeting, yes.
Are there other metrics that you look at?
Absolutely. So recently we have launched a new service called Boost, which basically includes the transaction risk analysis service. What does transaction risk analysis do? Because we as Nexi, when a customer is trying to purchase anything on our merchant store, we basically look at different parameters of that payment. So where the cardholder is paying from, so the location, which device they are paying from. Has this customer previously used the same card with any of our merchants? Has this customer ever opened chargeback requests or doesn't have good credit? Based on these decisions, we decide and sometimes skip the strong customer authentication process. And this is exactly how transaction risk analysis works. So basically having systems which automatically analyze different data elements in order to optimize the checkout experience so that the cardholder doesn't have to do the strong customer authentication.
Right. So your risk analysis takes a lot of inconvenience away from the cardholder and indeed from the merchant. Do you get commercial intelligence that you can then offer to your merchants from this process?
So the first benefit for the merchant is we take the guarantee of that payment. So if in case there is any fraud or the cardholder asks for a chargeback, Nexi will pay to the cardholder and the merchant will not lose their money. So that's the biggest guarantee we give with this service. The second thing we offer them is a dashboard. So in their dashboard, they can see how many transactions actually happen thanks to the transaction risk analysis
Yes.
service, and how many would have happened if it was not available. So basically, it shows the benefit
Yes.
of using Nexi Boost on their store.
You talk about small and medium-sized enterprises, but they can be quite different. Are you able to say broadly how big is your typical client as an SME?
So it's actually, the definition of an SME, it varies from different regions.
Yes.
Normally, what we consider as an SME is anybody who has a total transaction value less than 1 million for
Right.
the entire year. That's what we consider as a small, medium enterprise.
Yes.
Now, based on different verticals, you've got, for example, in the hospitality space, there are merchants who transact maybe 100,000, 200,000. Even those are SME customers. Then on fashion side, so you have like boutique brands, which also transact around 1 million, 1.5 million for the entire year. They're also, for us, a SME customer. Basically, these are people who don't have sophisticated technical teams to take care of integrations and checkout experiences, and
Yes.
they rely on our plug-and-play plugins, which we create for different web shops, different stores, to make the integration experience simpler for these merchants.
And if a merchant hears about you and thinks that working with Nexi would be a very good idea, how long does it take for that merchant to become onboarded?
Again, it depends on the industry of the merchant, because there are certain risky industries where we have extra steps of due diligence that we do for the KYC AML. But for a typical non-risk merchant, within 48 hours, they can have the solution live.
Fantastic. You mentioned earlier that you're covering Italy. Is this solution particularly popular in Italy, or are there other markets in Europe that you'd highlight at this stage?
No, I think this solution is absolutely popular across the board.
Yes.
Because now the focus is really to increase the potential revenues for merchants, optimizing the last mile of their experience. So this has become really popular, especially after the introduction of PSD2,
Yes.
which happened a few years ago, which changed the, let's say, paradigm of how payments happen. So from the cardholder perspective, there are more steps that you have to go through. From a merchant perspective, that means less revenues. So PSPs like us are working in order to help merchants not lose their revenues, and for the cardholders to be safe when they use their card and payment details online.
Fantastic. Do you have this field to yourselves, or are there other paytechs in Europe that are offering broadly similar services?
There are many different paytechs across the board who have started offering these services. The good part about Nexi is, since we are also an issuer, we also have an advantage to look
Yes.
at both sides of the coin. So we see what the cardholder is going through and what the merchant's going through. So this is something where we are unique in terms of our proposition, and plus our presence locally helps us really bring this value to our merchants, because we are physically and actually present there. We are not behind an email, maybe miles, thousands of miles away.
On the other side of an ocean.
Yeah.
Fantastic. This has been a tremendous interview covering a fairly detailed, specialized topic. Are there any issues that you feel we should highlight at this point?
I think it's important to understand that even small, medium enterprises can benefit from certain services which work on optimizing the payment experience. It doesn't require any technical know-how, because obviously this is our job as Nexi
Yes.
to do it for the merchant. And sometimes there's just fear of not knowing, not being technically aware, which stops certain merchants
Yes.
from trying these services. And I think what I'd like to say is, as Nexi, we've made it very simple and automatic, and we take the risk, and we are the ones who do it for you, because we know you don't have a technical team or an IT department. So we are the IT department for you.
In other words, you let the merchant be a merchant.
Exactly.
Dhruv, thank you. This has been excellent.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Welcome.